channel. Today we're gonna be doing my February wrap-up. If my voice sounds different, it's because it is. I lost my voice last week. It's been like a whole week now, and I have to film this video. It is the last day of the month, so just bear with me. This month I read 15 books. I read some manga, some graphic novels, some romance, some regular fiction. So yeah, let's get right into it. So the first book I read was Final Offer. This one is the third book in a series that I loved, and I gave it 3 stars. I did not love it. I thought I was gonna like Callahan more than like all the other guys in the series, but I feel like I didn't feel the chemistry between them. If I would have gotten my heart broken the way he broke hers, and then he came back and he did what he did in the book, I feel like I wouldn't have given him another chance. You know what I mean? Like, what he did in the book, like in the present, wasn't enough for me to be like, you know what, I'm gonna give it another chance. Like, yes, you know, he is obviously dealing with addiction, so there's certain things that he cannot control, and I feel like at least he had some awareness, and he like was quick to realize when he was wrong, so that is a good thing about Callahan. But at the same time, I feel like it wasn't enough for me to look past what he did to her. Like, if I was her, I wouldn't be able to look past what he did to me with the actions from the present. Obviously, by the end of the book, he did do things for her to change her mind, but I feel like throughout the book, he was still messing up the same way he did in the past. And like, I don't know, I just didn't like it as much as I thought I would, and I love the second book the best. I do love that Iris is a big part of the third book, because Iris, she's my queen. She is the reason why I love the second book. Like, she is such a baddie. I love her, and she is Callahan's best friend. So Callahan and Iris talk a lot during this book, so I love that I got Iris but not necessarily Declan. Like, we did get some Declan, but like, my favorite from the second book was Iris, not Declan. So obviously I was super happy about that. We got some Iris going on. So yeah, that's the only thing that I loved about the book, seeing Iris again. I don't know if I said it, but I gave it 3 stars. Then I have The House on the Cerulean Sea. I gave this one 4 stars. I loved it. If you guys are into the show The Fosters, this would be a great book, because I feel like it touches a lot on how the system thinks they know what's best for foster children, but in reality they don't. And I love how like Linus at the beginning was very like, follow the rules, and there's a reason why we do things this way. And then Arthur was kind of like, it's more complicated than that, because every single child is different and they all have different needs. And it was a very different book from anything I've read before, because I have never read about like magical creatures like the ones in this book. I feel like normally when I read about people with magic, they all have the same magic. Like, it's not like every single person has a different superpower. I think there's an airplane. I feel like that's why I didn't love it as much, because I am not used to like so many different type of characters in one story, like having to keep up with everyone and what each of them can do and all that. It wasn't that complicated either. I feel like I'm making it seem like it wasn't very well explained, but it was. I'm just not that smart, I guess, because I feel like I got confused a little bit. Like, I had to literally Google the kids. I couldn't remember who was who, you know what I mean? So I had to like always have like the little diagram, like I'll insert it here, to kind of like remember who, you know, who looks like what. I don't know, it was just different from everything I've read before. I rated it 4 stars. I loved it. I love the character development, especially Linus's. Then I read Spy Family Volume 2, 3, and 4. I gave 2 5 stars, and then 3 and 4 4 stars. I feel like the story has declined in the sense that like we get a lot of like different tidbits, like fun things that happens between them as a family that has nothing to do with the plot. So like, for example, the plot is that they have to get into the school to, you know, spy on this guy who is a higher up in that school. Obviously, I am gonna finish it now in March, so it's not like I'm gonna like DNF it or anything, but it was just, I feel like the plot was just like lacking in the last 2. Then I have a quick one. This is the Heartstopper yearbook. If you are a Heartstopper fan, highly recommend. I don't think it's like a must read, but if you feel like you want more of like Nick and Charlie and their group of friends, then the yearbook is amazing. Obviously, I give it 5 stars because it wasn't really like a story. It was more like different details about them, so like you learn more about them as a person, and you also see like pictures of them throughout the school year and stuff like that. So yeah, it was definitely a fun read, a very quick one, and again, if you are into Heartstopper, definitely check it out. Then I have Beautiful World, Where Are You by Sally Rooney. I love this book. I rated it 5 stars. I think Conversation with Friends was like 4.5. This is actually like a 4.5 as well. I still gave it 5 stars on Goodreads. I love this book. I feel like it's not for everyone, of course, just like any other Sally Rooney book. I feel like I would not recommend this to like any of my best friends because I know for a fact that because they're not readers, they're not gonna be like into such a bland plot like the ones that like Sally Rooney writes about. Her stories are more about the characters themselves and their thoughts. I love the fact that she writes such raw, flawed characters. Like Felix, I hated him. I hated him, but I can see why he was a part of the story. The other guy, I think was Simon. Yeah, Simon. Like for a Catholic fanatic, I feel like he was still very like good to talk to in the sense that like he wouldn't push his beliefs down like Eileen's throat. So like I like that about him, which is why I liked him more than Felix, which is kind of weird because I feel like in real life I would like someone like Felix more than Simon. I wrote that the male characters were not relatable to me the way the women were, and if anything I only liked Simon, which is rare because he's a bit obsessed with religion. Exactly what I just said. Maybe Felix was such an ass that it makes Simon look good in my eyes. That's the point of the book anyway. They're meant to be that way. And then I wrote, I love how Sally Rooney's always able to put into words thoughts I've always had but didn't know how to verbalize, especially when the thoughts are fucked up in society's eyes. I've said this before, but this book made me want to reread Normal People, and I said that in my book haul. Reading this and reading Conversation with Friends kind of like made me go back and read Normal People, which I don't know if I'm gonna do yet, but I might because I feel like Normal People was the first Sally Rooney book I read, and I was very into like happy ever after romance when I read that. So when I went into it, especially knowing how hyped the book was, I went into it expecting like a really good romance, and it is not. So now I kind of like want to reread Normal People. But yeah, I love this book so much. Then I read Everyone in This Room Will Someday Be Dead. I love this one. It is literally depressingly good. Like it is so depressing but like so funny at the same time. Like the way she talks about life and stuff like that is kind of like funny. I don't know, even though it's like dark, you know what I mean? I don't know, it's really funny. It's really funny. I feel like it's definitely not for everyone. I don't know if you guys know, but I grew up a Catholic. But I went from like Catholic to like Christian to like atheist. So obviously like when I deconstructed religion and stopped believing, I never really deconstructed Catholicism. Catholicism, is that how you say it? Catholic Church. I did not deconstruct the Catholic Church because I was already out of the Catholic Church for a few years, so it didn't even cross my mind. But some of the things that like I read in this book were like normal to me, and now that I see them from a different perspective, it's kind of like, is it normal though? Is it normal though? I wrote, so when I stopped believing, I was more tough on evangelical beliefs and was easy for me to see the hypocrisy and toxicity easily, but never really took the time to also deconstruct everything I grew up believing as a Catholic for the first 20 years of my life. So basically, yeah, I feel like that's the best way to explain it. Like I just feel like there's a lot of things that when I went through deconstruction I wasn't seeing because I wasn't a Catholic anymore, but this book was like, you know, like I never really thought about that. Then I read Daisy Jones and the Six. This is a reread and it was 5 stars. The first time I read it was 4 stars. So obviously I'm obsessed with it. As you guys can see my username, it is obviously after this book. And it is one of my favorite books of all time. It is my favorite author. And I vlogged the whole thing, so I'm not gonna go in depth in this video. Just stay tuned for that vlog because I will be uploading it on Saturday hopefully. But I thought that the whole series was gonna be released at once, but apparently it's gonna be every Friday. So the vlog that I'm gonna be uploading on Saturday, I planned on reacting to the whole series, but I guess I'm only gonna be able to react to the first episode. So yeah, regardless, stay tuned for the vlog because I did record myself reading this book and going in depth about every single one of my thoughts. So yeah, I will be uploading that on Saturday. Then I have Word Slut, and this book, you guys, this is my favorite nonfiction of, I was gonna say of all time, but like let's just say from this year because I love digital minimalism and essentialism. Those are my favorite nonfictions of all time, and I feel like this is definitely up there with those. I feel like everyone should read this book. Everyone should read this book, even if you're not a woman. I feel like you should read this book. It touches on how gender reveals are actually like sex reveals, because gender and sex are obviously not the same thing. I've known that for years. Not everyone knows that, so that's why I say everybody should read this book. Okay, so what I wrote about intersex is like there used to be known as hermaphrodite or hermaphrodita, I think is what I grew up hearing about, and that's intersex people, and it is when chromosomes and genitalia doesn't match. So they exist and they're as common, like I said, as redheads. So this book touches on that. And then I also wrote, I love how everything she's telling us, she's not only backing up with reference that I can go on and do my own research on, but she gives actual examples. And a lot of them are from popular cultural references that most people know. Exactly. So like everything that she talks about in this book, she tells you where she got that information from. So like if you're like, I don't know how I feel about that, just go to like the reference that she's giving you and go do your own research. It didn't feel like she was pulling information out of her behind. She was just being like, no, this is this way and here's a study to prove it and blah 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 blah. Or here's an example, and then it's an example that like everybody knows. Like she touches a lot on how they use language to basically like villainize Hillary Clinton during the 2016 election. I feel like this book makes you look at that election completely different. Like you're like, what? You know? Anyways, I cannot say enough things. Let me see if I wrote anything else that I think it's... If you question or would like to know more about non-binary transgender situations, the pronoun situation, I feel like this will be a good book to not only learn why it is grammatically correct, but why trans people are justified in their feelings, but also have reference that you can look into after reading this book so that you can have an unbiased opinion and not take the author's word for it. Exactly. I also wrote, it talks about how people talk about women in power. It also gives me a different perspective on things like saying women president or women surgeon. Like that just implies that it is not normal for the position to be held by a woman. Is instead helping in perpetuating the idea that women cannot hold or are not meant to hold those positions, which I used to not think like that before. It does women a disservice instead of helping, because basically like they're like, oh wow, women surgeon, like that's very rare. Like no, just say surgeon. It is what it is. It doesn't matter if it's a woman or a male or anything. Like it is a surgeon, you know what I mean? Anyways, that's basically what this book is about. I know I just went on a rant about this book because I just feel like everyone should read it. I feel like everyone should read it. And she has another one called Cultish, I think. I'll insert it here, but like I want to read that one. I want to read that one because I love cults. I love reading about cults. Then I read Black Cake. Oh, such a good book. It's basically like about this woman who passed away, and then she ends up leaving like a recording with basically like her whole life story. She has a child that her other kids did not know about, so now they have like a new sibling that they have to meet. She basically like ran away. She's being accused of murder. She has to start over. She changed her identity. And yeah, a lot of characters that had like, when you're reading about it, they did something small that like had a bigger impact in this lady's life. And basically like the lawyer has something to do with her. The kids are just like shooketh because they're like, what is going on? We had no idea that our mom had all this history. We see them meeting their grandparents and their sister, and like it's just very like, if you're into a family story where like they go through like a hardship together and it brings them closer than they were at the beginning of the story, then this is probably like a good book for you. I personally loved it. We also see like this sibling situation where like one of them was different than the rest and she didn't feel accepted, so she just started her own life away from her family. But then the other sibling basically stuck by their mom, so they have like some sort of resentment towards the other sibling, and like basically like a lot of family drama that they are forced to face once the mom passes away and she reveals all of these new secrets that they had no idea about. So yeah, I rated it 4 stars. I was gonna show you the book, but this is for a read it or unhaul it video that I will be making this month. I'm already filming it obviously because I already read it, but I read a book. I cannot say which one it is because I pulled it out of my cauldron. I have a cauldron with books I have not read, and I will be making a read it or unhaul it series here on my channel, and I already picked the first one and I read it and I loved it. And yeah, stay tuned for that vlog because I cannot spoil it obviously, but I just want to mention it because I did read it this month, and it was a YA book that I mentioned twice already in this channel that I've been meaning to read. So we got Stolen Air. You guys, this book, I gave it 3.5 stars. So I feel like it wasn't as entertaining as the Bookish series. I was not a fan of Oak. I feel like I cannot unsee Oak. Like, Oak to me is a child. So like seeing him as a 17-year-old, 17? Is he 17 or 18? I don't know, but like whatever. Like let's say 17. Seeing him as a 17-year-old in this book was like I can't see him as a hot main character that I should be like, you know, falling for because he's a child in my head. The Folk of Air series I feel like was very much into like the whole world's like politics and a lot of betrayal. I mean, you do have a lot of betrayal in this book, but I don't know, I just feel like I didn't connect with it the way I did with Folk of Air. I cannot explain why. I just feel like it's just not the same. So if you want to enjoy this, think of it as like a whole new series, a whole new like world. Also, people like were so happy about how Jordan Carden are part of this book. Where? Because yeah, they were a part of it, but like not enough to consider it like part of it. You know what I mean? Like, I just didn't get the Jordan Carden, like, you know, that I wanted. Also, people say that there's a lot more romance in this one than the Folk of Air. Was there more romance? Yes. Was there a lot of romance? No. Like, it was still not enough. I don't know, I feel like maybe if you're not a fan of romance, you probably won't mind that. If you want me to be honest, I don't know if I will be reading the second book in the series. I might, just because of Soren and I love her, but like, and because, you know, I already started it, might as well finish it, but it didn't hit the spot like I thought it would, basically. Alright, and then the last book that I read was Things We Hide from the Light. This is Nash's story, which is Nox's brother. You guys, I did not like this book. Let's just say that I already took a star down because of Nox. Well, Nox and Nash, both of them, they're just very unlikable male characters. Like, first of all, Nox is just as obnoxious in this book as he is in the first one. Second, Nash, if you like overbearing, like I own you type, or like you're mine type of like main character, like male main character, yeah, you're gonna like Nash. But to me, it's like she doesn't owe you an explanation. She's not your girlfriend. And like he keeps saying things like, oh, well, there is something going on between us. Like, we are kind of like no, we're not. No, we're not. We're not in a relationship. This is not an official relationship. Just because we slept, when I say slept, I don't mean sex. I mean literally sleeping together. Just because we sleep in the same bed does not mean we're in a relationship. And does not mean that I have to explain to you every single freaking thing I do. I just did not like him. The only things that I liked about this book was the fact that he was a cop, which, by the way, ew, cops? Absolutely not. No shade to cops out there, but I just don't like cops. Not someone I will go for. At least he did call out people who were racist in his department. I loved the fact that they touched on police brutality, and Nash was one of the good white cops. That was a good thing for him. Kudos to him. Like, but at the same time, it's like, isn't that your job? Like, isn't that your job? Like, I'm tired of congratulating people for doing things that they should have done already. Like, I shouldn't congratulate you because you're not racist. You should already be not racist. I feel like that is the reason why I was able to look past the fact that he was a cop, but at the same time, like, okay, you're not racist. Good for you. You want a cookie? You want a cookie? I wrote, it was entertaining enough for me to be able to finish it in one day, but honestly, the fact that I had this video to film was a big factor as to why I finished it so fast. I did not love it. It was just okay. Yeah. I knew that I had to film this video today, so I think I finished it on Sunday, so like 2 days ago, and that's why I finished it fast. Because if I didn't have like a due date coming up, I probably would have taken maybe like a whole month to read this book. I did not love it. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and got some good recommendations. If you guys are interested in watching that Daisy Jones and the Six reaction video, stay tuned because that will be going up this weekend, as well as Hobie's new song. Big Hit put out that Hobie will be the next one to join the military, and he is going to be releasing a song this Friday, so stay tuned for that because I will be reacting to it in this channel. I know this is not like a BTS reaction channel, but I will be obviously reacting to that. Also to Jimin's album, he will be releasing a new album mid-March, so I will also be reacting to that in this channel. So if you guys want to check that out, make sure you subscribe. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this video, and I will see you